I want to, first of all, welcome you, Clint, to our lovely tribe here and say how much I appreciate you taking time because I know how busy you are, or I have a sense of it. I don't know, but I just see you traveling around the world and doing so many wonderful, wonderful things. And so it's such a treat to have you with us. For me personally, but also to be able to dive more deeply with these wonderful souls who, many of whom gather with me every week. And we do meditation together that is from a beautiful group of other dimensional beings who are upgrading us, really preparing us for what's ahead. And it's a loving experience. So I am thrilled to be able to have time with you on a deeper level for all of them as well. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Hope, and thank you, everyone. It's so fun to see your faces, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I just got this really excited feeling before we started this call about what could happen in this short time we have together, and how our lives can change. So really honored and pleased to be with you.
For those of you who are new to Clint, many of you know about him because we had him on before with Gary, and we talked about his wonderful book, which I know he has a copy of and he'll show you. But this book is absolutely life-changing and completely, I suggest you run out and get a copy. And we'll hear more from Clint about the book. But I have to say that, I had a peripheral experience of Clint while he was writing the book, while he was also wrestling with a lot of the repercussions of losing Dr. Naram, the plus traveling a lot. And it was I always felt, boy, this must be a real washing machine, experience for you with just so many things going on. And yet every time that I saw you, Clint, on, Facebook or one of your videos, you were just bursting at the seams with just so much love and so much joy. And I thought maybe you would give us your story, how you came to be in India with Dr. Naram, and then the writing of the book, and then we'll check in after that. Just let everybody have a little background.
Beautiful. I just want to say Hope she made a big impact at a really critical part of my life, and did it with so much love that it's always touched my heart. In fact, it was just recently, I was just telling someone the story about how Hope was, when I was in India and about to publish this book that Hope had mentioned, and I just spent 10 years with this master healer, and my whole mission was, I started out so much as a skeptic. So the book is called Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. Subtitle is A Western Skeptic, an Eastern Master and Life's Greatest Secrets. I started out as a skeptic, and then meeting this master healer and going on the whole journey where really my life's mission was just making sure people knew that this existed, that these ancient secrets existed on the planet, and they may not choose them, but just know they're a choice. I just want to see a raise of hands who heard my story before when I shared last time, or has seen my TEDx talk or read the book. Anyone? So most people haven't heard this. So I'm just going to share it. Even if you've heard it before, I just encourage you to have your heart open, because there's a lot of secrets in the story, lots of insights that are really about the topic today, which is how do you find joy and true joy, even in the midst of whatever is happening. And life throws at us such unexpected events that sometimes are extremely troubling. Anyone had one of those times where you just wondered if big transition was coming, or someone you love was suffering with some big challenge, you wanted to help them, you didn't know how? Anyone been in that situation before?
Oh, yeah.
I see a lot of hands raising. Who feels like they're in a big transition of life right now? Like you feel things shifting? Yeah, I see some people raising your hand. So one of those moments came for me with my father. Man, I'm getting emotional already thinking about it, but he called me on the phone one day and he says, we need to meet in my office. I need to talk with you. That was strange. I'm like, I'm your kid, we can talk on the phone. He's like, no, this is really important. We need to meet. And so we set an appointment where I would go meet him. And then even that night, my mom called me and was like, please don't miss this appointment with your dad. I don't know what it's about, but I know it's important. So I knew something was off, or I don't know. It was strange. And I showed up at the time of our appointment and he lets me in. We go to his desk. He's sitting to the side of his desk. I'm sitting at the front of his desk and he looks at the ground. He was looking at the ground for what seemed like a long time before sharing anything. I could tell he was working out what to say, And finally, when he lifted his eyes and met mine, he says, Clint, I haven't told your mother and I haven't told your brothers or sisters, but I don't even know if I'm going to live to see the end of this week. And I just want someone to know where the loose ends are so your mother doesn't have to worry about it. And yeah, that was one of those moments where like whatever else was important that I thought was important just faded away. And my whole mind was scrambled, and I was just asking him, what's happening? And my dad, he told me that he was on 12 medications, seen 4 top doctors, medications for cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, CPAP machine, sleeping pills, this thing I called a GI cocktail, pain for arthritis. He's also going towards Alzheimer's, early dementia. First time in my life I'd ever seen my dad depressed. And he said he was in so much physical pain. It was like someone had slammed his body against the wall, that sometimes in the middle of the night, in that much 10 out of 10 excruciating pain, he says, sometimes I don't even know if I want to live to see the morning, Clint.
Mm.
And so I don't want your mother to have to like deal with all these loose ends. So can I just tell you, and then you be prepared? I'm sure that's not anything any parent ever wants to say to their kids, and it's something no kid ever wants to hear their parents say. And so in the moment of that, like just shock of letting that sink in, that this is I thought I had my dad for like when I get married and my kids are there and he'd read stories to them like he reads stories to me. And I had no idea that I could just have a few days left. And so many questions I never asked him. Like I realize I take people in my life for granted. Like almost the people I'm the least curious about are the people in my family, which is so ironic because I think I know them. In fact, I'm parking this story. I'm just parking it for a moment because I just traveled with my little sister, Marie. I'm one of 8 kids. And I was just traveling with her in Guatemala. And it was the first time we traveled together like this. And there was someone in the car that was asking her. I was sitting in the front seat with the taxi driver and giving directions. And she was sitting in the back seat with someone else that had flown in on the same flight with us. And the person was just asking her so many questions. And I was like learning so much about my sister, and like falling in love with her all over again, And I was like, wow, I don't listen very well to people that I say that I love. I mean, I don't know if anyone can resonate with that, but definitely in this moment with my dad. Actually, there's a funny quote. I don't have my phone with me, but there's a funny meme I saw on Facebook where this man was saying, my wife angrily said it, "You're never listening to me." And he responded, "That's a funny way to start a conversation." And I just thought, oh yeah, it's really true that, man, how much I take for granted people that are closest to me. Well, in that moment with my father, I couldn't, like so many things that just everything melted away. It's like I got punched in the gut, by life. And so I was just asking him a lot of questions about, what's happening and what else can we do? And, and he was pretty much like out of solutions in his own mind. And all he wanted me to do was pay attention where the passwords were for the accounts and all this kind of stuff. And so I listened. And then finally I said, Dad, I met this master healer. So when I originally met Dr. Naram, I didn't pay attention or give credibility to it because it sounded so, to me, strange. It sounded really out there. I grew up very, in like conservative Midwest, Republican, Christian, very, very much like believing in the system of government, the system of healthcare, all these things, and that are the best medicine that exists on the planet we have in the US, all this beliefs that I had. And if there was a solution on the planet, it'd come from our highly funded universities and medical schools. I was also a university researcher, so I just trusted research basically, and our research, and believed it was the best, arrogantly, but I felt rightly, Anyway, so when I met this master healer, Dr. Naram, and I even saw what he was doing, but I didn't put credibility to it until my dad, the situation happened where he didn't have a solution. He'd tried all the best. Even if I had all the money in the world, if I funneled it to all the Western medicine, it wouldn't have saved him. In fact, it would just give him more and more medications that had side effects. And the side effects of those medications mean he needed to take other medications for those medications, until finally he's on 12 medications. Now, what is 12 medications doing inside a human body? That's like a science experiment. He's like a petri dish for all these medications. But what are they doing inside his body? And how are they interacting? And two of the doctors that same month, told him, we don't know what else to do for you. We keep increasing your medications and it's not helping. That was their solution. Let's just change the medication or increase the dose. So finally they said, we don't even know what to do with you. That made him give up hope, because he's like, these are the experts and they have no hope and the solution isn't there. So at that point of my desperation is when I actually said to my dad, I was like, I was hesitant to tell him these things before because I even felt awkward about it, but I says, I met this master healer, and just from taking your pulse, he can tell you what's happening in your body. And I've heard he can do great things. Now, I was nervous to tell him. When I told my dad, I thought he would find hope, but instead he looked more disappointed. He did not look excited at all. He's like, and in fact, he told me, he's like, I've already tried acupressure and reflexology and homeopathy and Chinese medicine. He listed off all these things. He's like, they had big promises and some of them helped a little bit, but I'm still in this situation where I just need you to pay attention to my passwords, Anyway, finally, when I was done and I got all the passwords, I said, Dad, I don't care, but for Father's Day, I am flying you to see this master healer. I remember my dad, it was the only time he kind of cracked a smile and said, well, at least he can't hurt. I think he knew that I was desperate and that I wasn't going to accept no, that I needed to do something just to feel like I wasn't giving up. So fast forward, I flew my dad to LA, actually where I am right now, Los Angeles. And this master healer was traveling all over the US and Europe. And the next city that I could get my dad to was LA. And even on the plane, he had to have two people supporting him on each side and so much pain. We get to the location where the clinic was being held, which is a hotel actually in some certain conference rooms. And we're waiting. There's like 30, 40, 50 people waiting. And my dad is watching people go in and out in like 5-6 minutes. And after we're watching this for like 1 hour, 2 hours, I could see he was getting more and more uncomfortable until finally he leaned over to me. He's like, what are we doing here? He's like, and he listed off all his medications. He's like, I can't even read my medications in the amount of time people are going in and out of this room. And then I started feeling so insecure, like maybe I'm wasting one of my dad's last days of his life chasing this fantastical thing that I don't even believe in, So anyway, it was about we had to wait like 3 hours or something like that until finally his name was called. And I remember standing outside the room and seeing him walk in hunched over, and he was just basically ticking something off the list so that way I wasn't disappointed, that he could say he tried everything. And I remember the door closed and it was like longest 6 minutes of my life. It was a long time waiting there. And then just seeing the door open and watching my dad walk out, like even standing taller, like hope on his face, a different look, a possibility, and just seeing in his eyes a different look than I'd seen before, like a curiosity, an awe. And then I was like, what happened? He says, I don't know how to describe it, but he just put his fingers on my wrist. And then I didn't tell him anything, but he started telling me what was happening in my body, my mind, and my emotions. He's like, my 4 doctors, they never get together to talk about my case. But even if they did, they couldn't have described as accurately what I'm feeling, like what's happening in my body, in my mind, my emotion. He told me. I didn't tell him. There's no blood test, no MRI, no X-ray. Just from taking the pulse, he understood me. And he's like, I want to do the recommendations. Now, Dr. Naram, he comes from a lineage, basically a lineage of master healers. So Dr. Naram's master here, his teacher was named Baba Ramdas and lived to be 125 years. Had a master, all the masters in this lineage. It goes back to Jivaka, who is the physician for Buddha. So Jivaka's patients include people like Buddha, the king at the time, this woman by the name of Amrapali, who is known as the most beautiful woman in the world. In fact, she was 65, and the king at the time, who was 35, fell in love with Amrapali, even though he had a younger and a very beautiful wife. He still fell in love with Amrapali, who was 65. And so Dr. Ram always talks about these manuscripts, these ancient manuscripts that contain these secrets about how you can be young at any age. How did Amrapali at 65 command that much attraction power that the king fell in love with her? He was half her age and already had a young, beautiful wife, And so Dr. Ram, he said, it doesn't actually matter how old you feel or how old you think you are. You can be young at any age. And so my dad, he described to him the 6 instruments, the 6 keys of Siddha Veda, in which when you apply them, your body, your mind, your emotions regenerate. It gets that youthful feeling where natural, spontaneous joy comes into your existence. And so my dad decided to do all of these 6 keys, these 6 instruments. And one of them is like diet, just simply knowing what to eat and what not to eat. And another one was herbs, something called Marma Shakti, which I can explain a little bit more. Anyway, he did all of these. Again, fast forward 6 months later, my dad calls me again on the phone. He says, Clint, I have another big problem. I need you to meet me at my office. I'm like, what is it? I got nervous again. I was on the doorstep, remembering that last conversation and feeling my heart beating faster. So he opens the door. We're sitting in the same chairs. I'm sitting in front of his desk. He's sitting at the side of his desk. He pulls out a box from behind his desk and he says, I have a really big problem. And then all of a sudden he cracked a smile. He's like, I don't know what to do with all these medications anymore. And in 6 months, he'd gone from 12 to 1, like no more cholesterol problems. So he didn't have to take that medication. Even his own doctors were the ones that took him off the medication, because they would say, you don't need this anymore. You don't need blood pressure medication anymore. You don't need diabetes medication anymore. You don't have to take this sleeping pill. He had no pain in his whole body. Said he felt like he was 10, 20 years younger. And then he said, he gave a different request. He says, now that I'm feeling so good, I want to finish my life's work. And he'd been working for like 30 years on writing a book about how to help kids make good choices. He says in the school system, we teach kids what to think, but not how to think. And so his company called Choice Skills, and he wanted to write this book called The Missing Piece in Education, about just basically how to help kids make good choices to be happy. He did this survey with all these parents, and parents really didn't care if the kids got straight A's and went to the best schools, and they're more unhappy. And I mean, even there was one interesting survey about one of these elite schools, where the most smartest people had gone through so many divorces or so many bankruptcies or were in prison. Like the most intelligent people weren't happy. So my dad's whole passion was, how do we teach people to make good choices? Not about what to think, but how to think, how to choose. So he asked me, he says, Clint, will you help me finish this book and co-author it with me? I was like, oh, that's a way better request than the last one. And just in that joy, I wanted to call Dr. Naram and say, thank you. Thank you for giving my dad back to me. It was worth more than any amount of money. And I just wanted to thank him. And in that conversation, I remember asking Dr. Naram, I was like, more people need to know this exists. They may not choose it, but they should know this is a choice. And I want to help you. And that's when Dr. Naram just laughed. And I remember being so confused, like, why is he laughing? And I said to him, why are you laughing? He's like, it's because I know you now. You can't help me. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, your mind is way too crowded. He says, even if I told you what are the secrets, you'd just be trying to figure them out with your brain, but you wouldn't get them with your heart, you know? And so you can't really help me. Yes, more people can benefit. Yes, this needs to reach the planet, but I don't think through you. I was like, well, what do I do? Help me. And that's when he gave me two things to do. And one of them was go for this extended period of silence. Has anyone ever been for like a 7-10 days silence experience before? Anybody? Has anyone ever?
Leonora has.
Oh, Leonora, beautiful. I'm curious for you guys, what's the longest period of time you've been silent? Anyone been silent for an entire day, like a whole day? Okay, some people, good. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days. Let me go for 10 days. And I remember at the beginning thinking this was the biggest waste of my time. At 3 days, I was ready to leave because I'm like, there's no benefit. And I could do so much other places. And then only when I made a firm commitment, like, because I said, okay, only if I physically die am I leaving this place. Because I started to get headaches, backaches, cramps. I was starting to get angry. Weird anger would come that I didn't know was inside of me. So much tension. And I didn't like sitting in the silence. It was like pissing me off, that I was like wasting my time and that my body hurt and I was stuck in this room by myself, not talking to anyone. Anyway, finally I made the commitment. I was like, okay, only if I physically die am I leaving. And then that morning, next morning, I woke up with no pain in my body. I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then every day got better. It was like exponentially better until at the end of it, I remember I told Dr. I was like, I thought my dad needed healing. I didn't know how much I needed. Thank you. That was the most powerful experience of my life. And Dr. says, okay, now you're ready. So I traveled with him for 10 years. We went to hundreds and hundreds of cities and, so many countries. And I documented thousands and thousands of cases like my father and got the medical reports and everything and was getting everything ready to put together into a book, all the way getting ready to publish it, just to let people know this exists. So I devoted 10 years of my life. And then I don't know, Hope, if you want me to share the story of what happened next. I just, hopefully, at least in this story I shared with you all, you got some benefit out of this. Like, even if all we do is we listen to the people we love more, and just be more curious. Like, I think that's worth it. In fact, the very opening quote in the book is so profound. Even if this is all you get from this whole presentation, it's worth it. It just says, I didn't come to teach you. I came to love you, and love will teach you. It's so beautiful. Really letting love guide you and love guide your steps. And that even in the unexpected challenges, there's another quote actually in the book I just share with you because it applies to, not everyone is in a beautiful space. But even that thing that happened with my dad turned out to be one of the biggest blessings of my life. And Dr. Ram's master, Baba Ram Dass, he said this. He says, every adversity, every difficult situation, obstacle, challenge, heartbreak has within it the seeds of equal or greater benefit. So whatever is your challenge, whatever is your heartache, whatever is the heartbreak or the obstacle, it has within it the seeds of equal or greater benefit. It's there in your life, not as an obstacle to your happiness, but as the doorway to a possibility that probably you were just not aware of before. And it's helping realign you. Dr. Ram, he also said this powerful thing. He says, everything is a medicine or poison depending on how you use it. Water is a medicine for so many hundreds of things and a poison in some cases. He says, even I share in my TEDx talk a story about how I had a headache, such a bad headache. I was in India. I had this huge headache. And at the end of the clinic day, he was so happy and I was in so much pain. I didn't want to interrupt him, but I'm like, wow, what is he doing? He saw 300 people that day and he's got so much energy still. I was like, what's going on? And he's like, he looked at me, he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I have a headache. He's like, yeah, where does it hurt? And I showed him where it hurt. And he said, oh, that's a vata headache. I didn't know there's different kinds of headaches. I just have a headache, And he's like, do you know what your medicine is? I was like, what? And he's like, onion rings. I was not expecting a great healer. That's my medicine, be onion rings. So I was challenging him. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, don't think about it. Don't question me on this one. Just try it and see what happens. So went to the cafe. They have something in India called onion pakoda. It's the same thing. It's like deep fried onions. with this chickpea batter, chickpea. I was like, all right. And my headache, which had grown in intensity all day, I just ate this thing. And like in 5 minutes, it totally drained from my body. And I was like, that is crazy. How did that work? I was like, this is awesome. Now, caveat, onion rings is not a medicine for every kind of headache. And if you eat it on a regular, sometimes my mom says, she's so funny. She's like, I'm like, what are you doing today, Mom? She's like, well, I wanted to eat onion rings. I was like, why? You have a headache? She's like, no, I'm doing headache prevention. I was like, oh, no, no, Mom, you misunderstood. It doesn't actually help with that. Like, it can be a toxin as well. Everything's a medicine or poison, depending on how you use it. Now, when I went to Dr. Naram after my headache melted away, I was like, this is crazy. That is awesome. I want to learn more. Teach me. And he said, this is another one of those times where he's like, Clint, you remind me so much of myself when I was younger. I was like, really? Wow, how? And he looked at me, he's like, I was also messed up and confused. He's like, you don't even know which end is up. So then he's like, I'm like, okay, what? He's like, just pay attention as much as you can. And over time, you'll start to see the entire world differently than you see it right now. You're looking at the world through certain lenses and it blinds you and it helps you and different things are happening, but you're going to miss so much of life. He's like, but there will be something that happens as you're associated in this work, as you're a part of this mission, is this little particle will open up inside of you. It's called hope. It's called joy. And he said, you won't understand even why you're feeling happy, but it will just expand. And as that expands inside of you over time, you won't need a reason to be happy, but you'll start to see the world differently. And through that lens, you'll understand how everything fits and how everything flows, and where he doesn't call it disease, he calls it dis-ease, where the blocks come, the physical blocks that bring us physical pain, the mental blocks that create us disturbance mentally, the emotional blocks that create the heartache. And when those blocks are lodged in us, eventually things are going to break down. But how do you remove those blocks? And how do you rebalance the system? And the 6 keys of Siddhaveda, these ancient secrets, the whole purpose of it is helping you remove the blocks so you can align your life with your life's purpose. And I know just from the beginning of this session, from Hope talking about, channeling and receiving the upgrades, the downloads or the upgrades or whatever, like a big part of that is aligning for your purpose, And Dr. Ram says, even your life's work can be a medicine or poison, depending on if it's aligned with your purpose. And so along those lines, actually, I'm just going to pause right here because that was me talking a lot. And so Hope or anyone has any questions before I share anything else or anything that can be of service to you, especially in this space, I'm here for you. In this moment, I'm 1000% with you. I see Karen has her hand raised. I don't know if Hope, you want to call on people.
Sure, yeah, I will. Hey, Karen, sure. What did you want to say?
Did your dad's book get published for the parents, for the kids making good choices?
Yeah.
Are there any hope? Is there any hope there?
Yeah. We actually ended up publishing 3, 4, 5 books together. And so thank you so much, Karen, for asking. That's so beautiful. And I'm excited about it too. Actually, I'm going to be doing some stuff specifically for kids coming up in the near future, which I love it. Dr. Ram, his big passion was helping kids too. And so, in fact, I got a message just from, there's a lot of kids that have been showing up that are, I think they're geniuses actually, and they have unique abilities, kind of remind me of X-Men, and they don't feel like they fit in the world. And unfortunately, not feeling like they fit here. Even just 2 days ago, I got a message from one of them, and she said her daughter just tried to slit her wrists, because she just didn't want to be in the pain of being here anymore. And, my heart went out so much. And I just realized that a big part of what I'll be doing is creating a space where these kids, these genius kids, can come to the planet and maybe have a sanctuary space where we listen to them and they teach us how to make a better world. In the silence that I talked about, I realized that everything I've been doing in my life, I was just playing games invented by other people.
Yes.
I have a PhD, but the university was invented by humans, and you play this game and you get this title. Money is invented by humans. Countries don't actually exist in reality. It just exists because humans think they do. I was like, man, everything I'm basing my life on are just invented by other humans, and they're not, a lot of them aren't very healthy. So I just thought, what else can we do as humans now that's healthier for the planet, you know? And so thank you, Karen, for asking that.
We will have questions again at the end, but I just want to capture anybody that wanted to say anything right now.
I'm looking forward to getting his book as soon as possible.
Good. It's a wonderful read, and it's not only a story and very nicely written as his story, but it's got a lot of information in it, a lot of healing information. And it's such a service to the world. You did exactly what you wanted to do and what needed to be done, because we all needed to know these things and take healing back into our own hands a little more, you know?
And it has these teachings in it, and food and diet and everything.
Yeah, it has everything. Patricia, I like you. So beautiful. It does. It contains, in fact, it was so beautiful. I just got off a call on Monday. We do something called, I coordinate something called the Miracle Experiment Game. And it's a 30-day game, and people all over the world have been playing it. And you apply 3 of the principles from the book, and you see what miracles happen in your life. And on the call on Monday, there was a really fun conversation. This woman was on the call, and she told us she was a doctor, and she was at the medical university where she teaches. And in the intern's office, she saw on the bookshelf, she saw this book, and it looked like no one had read it. And so she pulled it off, and she's like, I want to read that. So she brought it back to her desk. She opened it up, and reading the first chapter, it wasn't enough. She loved it so much, and there wasn't enough time. And she looked in and saw it was actually written to someone else. So she didn't want to interrupt anyone, but she slowly snuck it in her bag to take it home. And then she was on this call, like confessing to stealing the book, you know. And the funniest thing happened, where on the call, she's basically describing how, as she was reading it, how much it changed her life and how it transformed her whole perspective, and how it is helping her become a better healer, a better physician, you know, and connecting her with her real purpose that she lost. And it was so beautiful, because on the call was the woman who had given the book to another doctor at the hospital. And so she had just spoken before, and she knew that the book was signed, Dear Dr. So-and-so, and with love, Arshia. And so the whole thing happened to her. Arshia found out that this woman had stolen the book. And so she was apologizing. She was like, no, it must have been meant for you. And it's funny, because the doctor she gave it to, when she gave it to him, he says, Ancient Secrets of Master Healer, but does the book actually contain the secrets? And she's like, yes, this book actually has the secrets in it. And he's like, well, I would prefer an audiobook. And so Arshia says, don't worry, this beautiful doctor's name is Dr. Susan. And she says, you can keep that book, that's yours, and I'll give an audiobook to this other doctor. Now, the other crazy thing I want to mention, Patricia, is that both of those women, the woman who gave it and the woman who, I'm going to say, borrowed it, but now is keeping it, both of them are Persian. They both came originally from Iran. And so in that context, they were speaking Farsi together. And this is the craziness of this whole thing, is this book has been being translated into 30 languages out of love, 30 plus languages all over the world, which I don't know has ever happened with any other book. Before it was even published, they started. Just before this call, literally 2 minutes before everyone got on this call, I just got the message from the person that said the Farsi translation of the book is ready. Can I upload it so people can start getting it? And it's so inspiring. Now, all the translators originally, this is another thing that's happening in my life. First, I don't know if anyone has kind of like self-love issues or, self-worthiness issues. I definitely have in my life, like struggled with loving myself, receiving love. I'm so good at giving love, but very difficult to receive it. Anyone else have that situation? I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but having that many translators just do it out of love, it was hard for me to receive their efforts and their work. And then I'm like, why am I getting in the way? Now, coming back to the Farsi translation, the woman who is translating it into Farsi, every translator that's been working on it, and already 6 books are done in the different translations. In the next 2 months, we have another 6 or 9 languages coming out, which is crazy. Already done is Italian, Portuguese, and Brazilian, and Brazilian and Portuguese. Already done his French, already done his Dutch, already done his Gujarati, English, and I'm missing one right now, but coming out in the next 2 months is Russian, Japanese, Farsi, Arabic, Romanian, German, Spanish. It's just crazy. Every translator who's done it has seen miracles happen in their life. I think it's because when you're in service of love, like you get blessed, you know? And so the woman who was translating Farsi, because she was translating it, she knew about this remedy at the end of the book. I'm giving this to you guys right now because it's so cool. And this remedy is on page 293. I'll hold it to you and I can read it to you. But basically, it's a remedy for immunity. Now, everyone in the world today is worried about contagious, right? You're afraid of social distancing and masks and whatever. Well, we call this contagious healing, you know, contagious love and contagious healing, because when you start to feel so good, it benefits everyone around you. Now, this is a powerful story of contagious healing. The woman who is translating in Farsi, I got to get my phone for this because if I can show you this, I think you're going to love this. Her aunt, who is in Iran, is 86 and went to the hospital. In the hospital is where she caught COVID. And after catching COVID, her health deteriorated so much. And in fact, the doctors had her on an oxygen ventilator, and God bless all the people that in this crazy situation have passed away without their family members being next to them, you know? And so they were prepared for this to happen. And at that moment, Afsena, because she had been translating this book and knew about this remedy, and also on page 173 of the book, there's a recipe for mung soup. It's this soup that's, I'll share more about it. So she gave this recipe for this soup and this home remedy for immunity that's on page 293 to her family. Say, please bring this to the hospital, give it to the nurses, make sure they feed it to her. So this recipe for immunity, I'll give you in a moment. They did this. They did the whole thing. And in only 1 week, the woman, her aunt, 86, who they thought wasn't going to survive, came out of the hospital. And the doctors themselves were so surprised. This is a little video of her. I don't know if you can see. So sweet. So she came out of the hospital, still had the oxygen. The doctors were so surprised. So the doctors at this hospital in Iran started telling other family members of other people in the hospital, can you please make this remedy and bring it? Can you please make this soup and bring it? Now, this all happened about 6 months ago or something like that. I just got a message from Afsena again, just recently, where her aunt just barely enjoyed her birthday and sent a beautiful picture where she's cutting the cake and saying, I don't know how to thank you enough, but my aunt is alive because of you. She says, this is the picture. And she says, my aunt is celebrating her birthday because of you and these ancient secrets. Thank you for everything. I'll be forever grateful. And she's basically devoted her life to making sure everyone in Iran has access to the ancient secrets. Even this 13-year-old girl from Iran joins most of our calls now. She's from Iran. She says, you saved my grandma's life. I want to learn what this is because I want to help more people. That's why we call it contagious healing. So through the book, you find all these kind of remedies. So is it okay if I just give you this remedy now? So whether you get the book or not, that you have access to this?
Yes,
so
yes.
This is such a cool one. My mom, she's been kind of a guinea pig for a lot of the remedies. And sometimes she'll take it and she'll be like for joints or something, she'll eat it and she'll be like, you know, this one tastes like Clint. I was like, what? And she's like, this one tastes like dirt. I was like, oh man. But she took this remedy. She was sick, like on the verge of getting sick. You know, when you have something in your throat, everyone has a little different thing. She was going to go to school, but nervous. And she says, Clint, do you have any remedy to help my immunity? I was like, yes. So I mixed this one all up. She drank it and she's like, you know what this one tastes like? I was like, oh, and what? And she's like, it tastes like liquid ginger snaps. I was like, oh, yes. It also tastes good. The next morning, she felt great. She took one more and never got sick. You know, it happens like this. It's happened for so many people. So when you treat your body right, your body is it's just basically a healing machine. And so when you give it the right nourishment and when you give it the right remedies and you remove the certain blocks and detoxify, purify, balance everything out, it can live for crazy long age. And sickness is optional in most cases, you know? So this remedy is awesome. You take 1 basically, I like to get the water a little bit warm, but you take a half a glass of warm water, you put in it a half a teaspoon of ginger juice or ginger powder, a half a teaspoon turmeric powder, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon powder, 11 to 12 tulsi or basil leaves. Now, if you don't have those, no problem, but you can crush them or make a paste, or sometimes you can get a powder as well. 1/8 teaspoon clove powder, and then 1 clove of garlic. You mince it and you put it in there, and then you put 1 teaspoon of honey. You stir the whole thing and you just take it regularly through the day, and it's crazy how good you'll feel. It's really, really beautiful remedy. So Patricia, I don't know if that answered your question, but the book is full of this kind of stuff.
Do I get it from you or on Amazon?
Good question. There's actually, we create a way in which you can get it from Amazon, so many places, but when you get it through this particular website, it donates more money to this orphanage in Nepal where we are supporting. And then also it gives you access to, there's bonus videos. At the end of every chapter, there's a video that demonstrates stuff and explains stuff, and you meet people in the chapter. It's myancientsecrets.com. Basically, when you purchase from there, it still takes you to Amazon, but through a thing called an affiliate link, where it just donates more automatically to the orphan home. And then also puts you in the system by which you can get those bonus videos. And so you can see, how do you make this remedy, or how do you make this soup, and then you meet a lot of the people in the book, which is cool. A lot of people say that's their favorite thing, because some of the stuff in the book, it's kind of hard to believe, that it happens. And like, even as a skeptic, but it's like, oh, it's so cool that you meet the people, you see the reports, and then you can actually interact with a lot of them. So
Clint, it's so wonderful to hear you talk about this story, and the way whenever I hear about these translators, these volunteers who just, that's no small feat to translate that book into another language. That's huge. And it's this wellspring, right, of love, and as you said, and generosity, and thoughtfulness for the person's country, really.
They just say, I want it to be available for people who don't speak English. In fact, just this week, I got the cover in Russian, which is going to be completed soon. Here's the one in Spanish. He just got the one for Japanese. It's crazy. It's like surreal. And it's like, it's beautiful.
Well, how when an idea is right is when it takes fire like this. Your impulse that you listen to, and you put in a lot of time and effort into making it just right, and I so honor that you listened to your inner voice to follow through with a challenging road. And now to see you in Switzerland and Italy and the Netherlands and wherever you're taken next, as the new translation comes out. But I encourage everybody to try to go over, if you ever are on Facebook, go to Clint's Facebook page, Dr. Clint G. Rogers. You will see these miracles that Clint is sharing, and you just end up grinning from ear to ear when you see these people who have had these experiences, and Clint's right there, with his phone filming it, and it's miracle after miracle after miracle. And we're talking about joy this month, and to me, looking at those videos never fails in bringing me into a state of joy. Really. And partly it's because of the miracle itself, and partly it's because of your joy in telling the story.
Yeah, we have something called every Sunday we have something called the Sunday Global Healing Miracle Experiment. And even it surprises me how many miracles, and it's globally happening. And I want to come back to you, Hope. I know you're sharing something, but I want to come back to you in the moments in which I wasn't even sure I was going to publish the book. Actually, it was like Dr. Naram had just passed away, and I was thinking, this wasn't my plan. This isn't what I was expecting. And I didn't know anything. I was so lost. And a couple things helped me. There's a mystical story about a dog. If I can share on this call, I will. But I also, Hope volunteered to help me. And, she channels and she downloads and did a dowsing session for me. And she's like, I'm hearing something. I was like, what is it? And she's like, I'm hearing that actually you can kind of sit back. Like they're going to do a lot and you can just kind of enjoy the ride. I don't know if you remember that, Hope.
I don't.
But I was feeling pretty stressed out because to put everything together and to feel like I was abandoned or orphaned or on my own, you know. But she said some words like that, like, actually, you know, you're in a really good position and you really don't have to worry too much right now. You just sit back and enjoy. I was like, what? You know? And now in retrospect, a year and a half later, I didn't plan so much of this. You know, it's not like The Secret where I had some intention, I put out this and I attracted this thing. I didn't have an intention of being translated in so many languages. It's not like a business structure. It's not like a religious structure. It's not a government structure. What's happening is through me and through the people that are coming, it's a structure that's serving and nourishing and that doesn't really exist in other forms on the planet. You know, it's a structure that's guided basically by love. And it's not about, you know, sometimes cults or different things, they want you to become dependent.
Yes.
The thing I love, there's even a famous actress that she read the book and she contacted me and she's like, you know what I love about this is it points, the ancient secrets point you back to yourself. It's all about making you independent. And I just thought that's so cool, you know, and really it is like that. And even in the whole space of seeing things unfold, Hope, your role and what you gifted me in that space, you know, I remember it quite often. And then from the book, many people have wanted to go deeper. And so we created something called a 100-day course, 100-day course in ancient secrets where people can go, oh, even deeper. And then we just barely created something called a 3-year practitioner training, you know, for people that want to learn how to become practitioners. And this was never my plan. I mean, we had a plan to do it with Dr. Naram, but I didn't know this was possible. And I didn't know how it was going to shape up. And I know it's just beginning. You know, I know it's a sacred group we're here, and this group of people that are here. And the fact that you're hearing about it now is there's some reason for it. You know, it's, you'll hear about it. You're going to hear about it in the future from other people. And you'll be like, oh, I was on a call with that guy, you know, or I applied, I used that remedy. And yeah, it really works. Or, you know, this kind of thing happens. And it's really fun to see it happen. I mean, I don't know. I just feel humbled, you know, and I'm in a process myself, man. I'm learning so much. And it's like hyper speed of learning stuff that I never thought I would ever need to learn, you know. And so having good communities like this that you're a part of and being able to be with you, it's so nourishing and just so grateful. Yeah.
I know we are all very, very grateful for you and for your incredible courage, really. This was, you didn't know what you were stepping into, and but you went anyway. And it's that kind of blind faith, in a sense, following your star, you know, and not even knowing it was your star, but it sure is. It's never been more evident to me. And so listen, we've been talking for about an hour, and I just thought we'd take another pause here and see if there are some questions or some comments.
So Clint, thanks so much for sharing so much, and totally great, and so great that you went with your dad, and my goodness, what a great story. So my question is, if we read the book, I mean, obviously pulse diagnosis is something that people are trained in for quite a few years. Is there a lot in the book that we can learn for everyday practicality and not do pulse diagnosis?
So love that you asked that, Terry, because really the whole, why, I wonder, why did Dr. spend so much time with me? And his whole mission was he had a goal to help every home and every heart on earth to benefit from the ancient secrets. And he knew he couldn't do that by just taking pulse, because he was already seeing 300 people a day. But if you calculate all the possible days of his life, it's like less than 1% of the population of the planet. And so the whole goal was create something that can work independently of anyone needing to take your pulse. And it's so fun hearing the stories of people who, I mean, it was crazy. There's this, the first chapter is about this little girl that was in coma, and it looked impossible. The doctors gave up hope, and I won't share the whole story, but when I was in the Netherlands for the book launch in Dutch, there's a woman that came from Belgium. Her brother was in a coma, and the doctors had given up hope in Belgium. And she actually went and she actually had a dream in which she felt inspired to get this book out and read it. She opened up, just read the first chapter where it demonstrates what do you do to help someone get out of a coma. And she didn't tell me contact anyone, but she started doing it, pressing the points, doing all this stuff. Her brother came out of a coma, and she was telling me about it and how she went to get it to doctors and say, my brother came out of the coma. And they're like, no, this is impossible. So they injected him with something to knock him out. And she was so shocked. She's like, what did you do? They're like, no, this wasn't what you think. He was just having tremors. And she's like, no, I did this. And he was coming out of coma. He looked at me, he was moving. They're like, no, that's not possible. We know he's going to die. It's like, so anyway, she goes back the next day, starts, pressing all the points, doing all this stuff. Again, he stirs, he opens his eyes, he looks at her. The next day he tries to talk. Again, they inject him. So she's like, I got to get him out of this hospital. And like one of the remedies in here, it's so funny. It's a little bit strange, but you take onion, like an onion, you cut it into 6 pieces and you put it on the left side of your head. Then you take milk and you put it in a bowl, you put it on the right side of that person's head who's in coma, not your head, but the person in coma. And anyway, she was doing this and the nurse is like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just doing this. She's like, you can't do this. He's going to die. And she says, if you believe he's going to die, then it can't hurt. And so they let her do this. Then she did everything, press the points. Anyway, now he's at home. He's standing, he's talking, he's eating. It's so cool. So short answer to your question is, Terry, the whole beautiful thing about Dr. Naram devoting the last 10 years of his life is so people can benefit without needing to see anyone. Now, if you want to go deeper, you can set up a Zoom call or you can join any of the extra training. But even just from reading the book, you got like so many powerful things in there that can change your life,
Seeing you in your purpose and spreading the word as you do so eloquently and humanly, you're really in it. It's so beautiful. It's so touching, and it brings me joy. And I think it brings everyone joy. So I really appreciate you and your presence and your work. And everybody, if you can just get in on some of Clint's weekly calls or go to his Facebook page and get involved. The other thing is, I wanted to mention a little bit more about the orphanage and the beautiful work that you've been doing with them, and the fact that if you buy the book, this certain percentage does go to the orphanage. So can you talk a little bit more about that, Clint?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for mentioning the Sunday calls. We always have them at 8 a.m. Pacific. And I just put the Zoom link. You can join anytime. It's welcome. People from all over the world join. And we just had to expand our Zoom room because it was always reaching capacity. So the orphan kid, but I wanted to share a video. I don't know why. I thought maybe you'd ask about this, and I queued up a short video. Makes me cry though, so just prepare yourself. But this is these orphan kids that I have fallen in love with. Dr. Ram introduced me to them, and this just gives you a small sample of why I fell in love with them. And on this video, it just explains what it is, but just a couple minutes long, and I'll let you experience it for yourself. And it's really beautiful.
Namaste. When earthquake happened in our Nepal, we were scared. Our home is destroyed. You help us. now you are in the bad situation. We want to help you.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Thank you, Alavi, and I want to say that don't lose hope. Everybody faces different problems in their life, so keep smiling. We will support you.
Thank you all for loving these wonderful orphan children and their cause. I learned a big lesson from my master, from Mother Teresa, and ancient healing secrets. Loving is the biggest healer, and I believe your healing starts now. I love you all.
Oh my gosh. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. I love they don't have money, but that didn't stop them at all. They knew that there's so many ways to help, and so much of the work that we're doing through the book and everything through the foundation, it's supporting not only these orphan kids, but all orphan kids in a way that's transparent, accountable, that actually helps and gives them anyway, it's beautiful. So thank you for letting me share that, Hope.
Thank you. And gosh, there's just so much joy in giving, and just seeing them in their pure little faces, saying how much just saying, I love you. I mean, that was just gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that.
It's like such a sacred, holy moment. They're like, of course we can help. They prayed for like 10, 15, 20 minutes so intensely until finally the other adults were the ones trying to knock them to stop, like not run into them. I felt like I was in one of the holiest places, to receive that, to witness that and to feel it, it was so beautiful. And I honestly, what Hope was saying, about this time we live, I think we live in one of the most exciting times ever. And one of my teachers, he says, if you don't know what pregnancy is, you never heard of pregnancy. You walk up and there's a woman on the sidewalk screaming, and then this thing breaks and it's like water and then blood, and she's panicking and screaming and breathing. You think this is the worst thing that ever happened, but you don't know it's childbirth. Something new is being born. And so society right now, it's like we're giving birth to something, and there's going to be some mess, but it's not a bad thing necessarily. It's like a beautiful thing.
I wonder if I could just share a few things that when Dr. Naram came through to give you a message. Do you mind if I share a little bit of that?
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And I just want to prepare you that I will need to get off this call in about 5 minutes. So I just love the space that we've had together, and so grateful for you.
Perfect. Okay. So I was doing a channeling, and I did not expect Dr. Naram to come, but Dr. Naram came in, and he said about Clint that he is a magnificent soul and one that I love very much. I knew from the moment I met him that he was divinely sent to me to assist in my work in healing the world. It takes a very special soul to pick up the mantle of any teacher. In my case, I struggled to understand my teacher, but Clint has so quickly come into resonance with my work that I am amazed. He was truly meant to do this, although I know he still has his doubts. This was a while back. He has a purity that I hope he will retain with your help and others as well, so he may be able to manage what is to come. He is a very decent person and a caring one. And I wish to encourage him to fully embrace this next phase of his life. To have a mission is a heavy responsibility as well as a great joy. So many people have no idea what they are here to do. So to have no questions about that is a great relief. And so he just tells you that he loves you like a son and is standing by you at all times, and to reach out to him whenever you feel the need, because he is right there. So thank you for letting me share. That was a private message for you, but I thought it was good, might be good to hear it again.
Yeah, it's really good to hear it again. It's really good to hear it again. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to finally meet him. I always wanted to meet him in person, and then I didn't, so I got to meet him the other way. So that was nice. Anyway, so my friends, we are near the end, and we need to give Clint a little breath before he goes into his next thing. I'm just going to assume that we're all final here. And again, just I wish I could give you a big fat hug right now, Clint, but we'll have to save it to when you come to our neck of the woods again, and hopefully you will, and we'll get to see you in person. But thank you, dear friend, for coming on and being with these beautiful people. You've really inspired us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so grateful for each person on this call, just trusting there's no accident. You're here in this space for a reason. And I hope, thank you for being this bridge in which so many of us can, a catalyst for hope and for joy. No accident that your name is this, and that you're at the cross section of our lives in this way, in which your heart and your soul is so courageously dancing. I just, maybe I share one last story in brief. When I was doing a clinic in Miami, this man came who told me that he had an appointment to see Dr. Naram for the pulse, and then Dr. Naram passed away, and that didn't happen. Then he had an appointment to see another one of Dr. Naram's students by the name of Marian G, and then she passed away. And then he told me, he's like, I set the appointment with you. And I quickly said, I'm so glad I'm still here. Anyway, he was suffering with anxiety and stress and depression for like 7 years. He says, I wouldn't be alive except for, I don't want to kill myself because of my kids. I want to be here and they're keeping me alive. But he's like, I'm in torment. I'm in so much anxiety. And anyway, we just applied all the ancient secrets. And the reason why I say this is I believe everyone is a microcosm of the macrocosm. So what if he's a microcosm, macrocosm? All that stress, all the anxiety, all the things that are creating stress. I got a message from him not that long ago where he applied the ancient secrets. He changed his diet. He was taking herbs, pressing marma, asking himself, what do you want? I mean, that's one of the most critical things, is asking yourself the question, what do you want? And his message, he's like, I don't know how to describe this, Clint, but I went outside and I was floating in the pool and I'm looking up at the sky and I'm seeing the clouds and I'm hearing the music my wife plays, where it usually annoys me, but this time it felt like an anthem of like the angels. And I'm looking at the birds fly and I'm like, what is this thing I'm feeling? Is it pleasure? And he's like, no, it's beyond that. He said it was an ecstatic moment in which he felt connected with all things. He says it was like there was a romantic dance of my soul with the gift of life. I'll just repeat that again. He said it felt like it was a romantic dance of his soul with the gift of life. And he was in such a good space. He just came on our call on Sunday, and it was just so fun to see him again, and just in a totally different experience of joy, of living life and savoring, like even things that used to annoy him before. Now he can see the, like, he shifted. And so all the world around him shifted. And so, yeah, what if that happens for humanity? Awesome. And thank you, Hope, for your big role in our lives and blessing us.
My great joy and honor. Oh, it's hard to say goodbye, but we're going to have to do it, everyone. So, big kiss to you, Clint. Big kiss and hug to all of you wonderful people who joined us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's all go out with a lot more joy than we came in with, okay? All right. Much love.